Oh, hi. Oh, hi.
Kanti mina izinto andizithandi andento andizithandi mina ngabantu aba bandifunayo andizithandi izinto ngabantu abafuna ndime.
Okay. Masiphinde sincokolele.
Stop ke bhuti.
Ngu-9. Thanks, COVID Minister. Honorable members, good morning. It's now 9 o'clock. We're starting the portfolio committee, the session for the
recording in progress.
I want to formally welcome and great Honorable Minister Ngesi, who's on the platform, who's part of the meeting. Also great the honorable members who are also on the members of the portfolio committee, and also great the staff and the guests who are also on the platform. Amongst those who are on the platform as well, we must note the Director General and his staff, and again the guest. We hope that the guest would do the honorable thing, that is, after all the introductions, they can as well just introduce themselves before we proceed with the program for the day. We also would want to take the opportunity to welcome on the platform I thought I saw oh, sorry, that was a wrong name. Okay. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Thanks, Honorable Deputy Minister, because I wanted to be sure that I acknowledge everyone who's on the platform. Having said so, can we then allow Mr. Sagaza to do the roll call?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning. Good morning to members. Good morning to the department at large. Honorable Chair, we have today from the portfolio committee yourself, Honorable Chairperson Mansele.
Sorry, Mr. Sagaza. I'm not sure whether your mic, whether it's your mic or is your speaker, but the sound is not audible enough. It's as if you are in a wrong setting. It might be the gadget, not you yourself. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Am I audible now?
Yes, it's clear now.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I was saying, Chair, we've got yourself, Honorable Nonsele. From the Portfolio Committee, we've got Honorable Zuma. We also have visiting Honorable Jacobs. We also have Honorable Bagram, Honorable Kado, Honorable Hinana, Honorable Ngobo, Honorable Mkonto. That's from the Portfolio Committee. And then from the staff chair, we've got myself, Dabeni Poshia, Mr. Debu Mkwena, the researcher, Mr. Sibumseni Ngobo, content advisor. Thank you, Chair, from my side. I haven't received any new apologies except the chairperson, who is still off sick, and Honorable Dana, who is still on maternity leave. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Lani. Can we allow also the DG, Mr. Lamati, if you can also proceed to introduce your team? Is the DG on the platform?
Yes, Chair, he was here.
Yes, because I thought I saw him.
Unless he moved out, let me check.
Can someone take over and introduce the team from the Department of Employment and Labor? Honorable Mtabe, your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Sagaza did not call my name, and Honorable Makubel. We are on the platform. Thank you.
Oh, my apology, Honorable Chair. I missed that out. Sorry.
Apologies, Honorable Mtabe, as well. Thanks for your alert and guidance. Mr. Mkalipi, you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Temigosam Kalipi. We've got Tando Wababa, the parliamentary officer from the department. We've got Tejani, Mr. Tejani, the communication officer. I mean, those are the people that I see in the chat from the department.
Yeah, there is also the director of NEDLEC, Ms. Lisa Septel.
Yeah,
and
yes, Chair, the presenters, director of NEDLEC,
okay.
you'll have the director of CCMA, Mr. Cameron, who will do the presentation.
Okay. And Mr. Mkolisi of PSA as well. Yeah. What I can suggest is that each director, when presenting, they can as well recap on the introductions, so that we save time in the absence of teaching. Yeah. Can we then allow the guests on the platform to introduce themselves?
My name is Cameron Solomarajan, Director CCMA, Chairperson. With me, I have the Chairperson of the Essential Services Committee, Luvuyo Bono. I have the CFO, Ukidiboni Mashahom. And then I have the head of IT, Unkosi Asi, has joined in. I've got corporate services, Mtembeni Nganan, who also joined Chairperson. I've got the Chief Audit Executive, Zanele Klope, also, who's joining this session, Chairperson. I think that's all I can see from the list of my team. That Mura Setlapo, our new head of dispute resolution, has also joined in. Yeah, Chairperson, of course.
Thanks, Commissioner. Thanks a lot. Ms. Seftel, so that we save time again, you have any introductions you want to make other than yourself?
Chairperson, good morning. I did put on the chat that I'm joined by Farhan Samsudin, who is the CFO of NEDLAC, and Ubuntu Subisi, who is the executive manager. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Seftel. Anyone want to make Mr. Muti?
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson and members of the committee. Speaking is Mutunya Mutiba, the CEO of Productivity SA, and I am with Mr. Mkolisi Dludla, the acting Chief Financial Officer, who would also be presenting with me on the financial issues. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mutunya. Any outside guests who are on the platform who want to introduce themselves? Looks like it's none. Then we can proceed with the agenda. Honorable members, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, and the Director General and his team. Can we then proceed with the first presentation? Because we're going to have the third quarter report that is from the Department of Employment and Labor. We're focusing on the entities. We're starting with the presentation of the CCMA, followed by NEDLAC, and the last one will be Productivity South Africa. Can CCMA take the platform?
Yes, Chairperson. Let me attempt to share the slides.
Okay.
They are appearing as shared on my side. Can you see them?
Yes, you can see that.
Right.
I'm sure everybody is, if there is anyone who has got a problem, they must feel free to alert the chair. You can proceed, Commissioner.
All right. Thank you very much. Chairperson, it's going to be like very brief, maybe 2 minutes or so. I will not deal with these slides that deals with the general aspects relating to the CCMA. I think that is settled now. I'll go to slide 12. Slide 12, Chairperson, the report is, the CCMA reports 100% performance. That's it. And then slide 13, it's just an explanation why we achieved that. And credit and a very congratulatory message must go to the chairperson and the deputy chairperson of the essential services with the scope they've covered in this quarter, because as you know, Chairperson, when it comes to essential services, particularly matters of enforcement and also the conclusion of the MSAs is always a difficult task to do, because it's dependent on the cooperation of others. So the Department of Social Development was the focal point, and you can see that the team has covered 30 of those. So we're recording a good achievement there, and the scope that is covered is quite a lot. We normally struggle when it comes to MSAs. We wish that this spirit and approach can be spread to other sectors. I think it will make a huge difference if we did that. And then, Chairperson, I'll just proceed to just, I don't know, I cannot see the number of my slide on the one on the screen. It's just a dashboard of our normal performance. Notably, you'll see our settlement rate is still sitting at 74%. And also, you will also see on the left-hand side the number of tariff applications that we did in-house, not the COVID one, the normal ones. And that is essentially that. And our intervention on public interest matters, including Sibanye support, I think it's in the same quarter, right? About 95% of that. That's that. I won't talk to the spread of our know your rights and advocacy that we do. We're diminished because of resources, but we have not given up on that. That's that on performance, Chairperson. On finances, because we're talking third quarter then, Chairperson, our financials, they are liquid. We're running a liquid institution, no issues there. And we're within time in terms of our budget of our performance. Chairperson, that's the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Director. Can we, were you not saying that you would allow the CFO to present, or he or she will respond to the questions?
Yeah, it was productivity, Chairperson, that said they're going to allow the CFO. With us, we have nothing really.
Okay.
That is, yeah, if there are questions, we will answer, and the CFO is present to answer the questions of members. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Derek. Honorable members, that's the presentation from CCMA. Can we allow questions?
Acting Chair, it's Michael Bagram.
Honorable Bagram, and is there any other? Honorable Mkondo, followed by Honorable Mkondo. We can take it in that fashion so far. Honorable Bagram, you can start.
Thank you, Acting Chair, and thank you, Senior Commissioner, for the report. First of all, I wish to congratulate you on an amazing job. Well done. This is not in my nature to do this, but I think it's been absolutely superb. I do have a few questions. First of all, if you go to slide 6, where you said supervised ballots for unions and employer organizations. I just wanted to know whether this is being taken up, whether in fact the unions are coming forward for you to supervise ballots, how many. I'd be interested to know if it's become common practice. And in fact, even employer organizations. I haven't heard of one yet, but maybe you've had it. If you go just below that, an offer to resolve a dispute that has not been referred to the CCMA, I think that you've covered yourself in glory on this one, and I think that there needs to be more intervention. We're getting some rather horrific strikes in the country, and I'm hoping that the CCMA will come in and get that labour peace that we're all talking about. If you go to slide 7, part of your vision is a world-class institution, and I think we're getting there. That's where I want to congratulate you, because the feedback I'm getting back from lawyers around the world is they are saying it is a world-class institution. Unfortunately, the country is not quite there yet, but well done to you on that particular thing. If you go to slide 13, 2.3.1.3, number of entities engaged to ensure that their minimums to be maintained during industrial action and essential services. I'm not so sure that that's actually being adhered to. Many of the strikes that we're seeing, especially the big ones, people aren't ensuring that the minimums are maintained, and maybe you want to comment on that. I look at slide 14. You've had a total of, 38 or 39,000 referrals. That's coming back to the pre-COVID figures, which I found very interesting. It puts a lot of pressure on the CCMA, but it is interesting. And in fact, this is what's keeping labour peace. And maybe people, instead of having fights, are just referring it to the CCMA, which is the whole idea of the CCMA and the legislation. I have noticed that 20% of the referrals are professional services. Does that mean maybe others aren't aware of the services that the CCMA refers to? I mean, agriculture and farming is only 4%, but the minister keeps telling us that this is an industry that is unfair. That doesn't speak like that in the figures. Business professional services are 20% of the disputes, and agriculture is the second lowest, or in fact the lowest, with transport and mining. So it does sound a bit strange, and maybe you want to comment on that. Maybe people don't know. I want to congratulate you on slide, well, the next one, I don't know, I can't see on my printout what slide it is. The next one where it says 21-22 third quarter dashboard, where it takes 23 days for a conciliation. If you look at the Department of Justice, before they get anywhere, it can take years, and it's only 76 days to arbitration. I think we really need to applaud you on this. This is justice done quickly. There was that old saying, justice delayed is justice denied. They can't say that about the CCMA. So well done on that. I just want to quickly look at slide 21 with the financial performance analysis. You've got total assets of 370 million, but the liabilities are 61. Are you secure? Is there any problem there? Maybe you can tell us that there's no problem. I see you had to use assets to convert to physical cash. Just interested to know about that. You on slide 22, the income received from services. Maybe you can push that up. You have some highly qualified people, and you, in fact, while we're talking now, you're running a seminar in Cape Town, which is a pity. I would have gone to the seminar, but I had to come here. You should be charging more, and I think a lot of the businesses would pay for more training. And then finally, I just want to have a look at 24, and I apologize, Acting Chair, I've been talking too much, but there's the sheriff costs on slide 24. This is a good service that is offered to indigent, dismissed employees, and I think it's being underutilized. You are actually paying the deputy sheriffs for the service of the paperwork, but I think the public don't know about that. Employees don't know about it. And I don't think trade unions know about the service that you're offering on that one. And a trade union, I've spoken to a few shop stewards. In fact, this morning I spoke to a shop steward who had no idea that the CCMA could help out on that one. And then finally, Chair, on 27, I ask everyone to go and have a look at that slide at number 27. There are no new irregular expenditure and no new fruitless and wasteful expenditure. I think we all as a committee should be applauding this, and the country should be applauding it. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Pegram, for the questions, and also thanks for the congratulations that you have made. I think it belongs to the collective in oversight, and as well as the excellent job that has been done by the leadership of CCMA and its collective. You are followed on the questions by Honorable Mkondo, and then followed by Honorable Mdabe. Honorable Mkondo.
Thanks for the opportunity, Chair. Good morning to you, Chair, honorable members, the Minister and his team. Chair, I will also, first of all, welcome the presentation from Mr. Cameron, and then also join Honorable Pegram in congratulating them for the good work that they always perform. At least they bring hope in these institutions and to the vulnerable workers out there. Chair, I have comments and questions. On slide 14, I can see the agricultural sector is only 4% from the agricultural sector that has been a service. I just want to bring to the attention of this committee that the joint committee oversight visits that we did with the department, with the Portfolio Committee of Agriculture, has shown that there is a huge demand. There is a huge demand of CCMA in the farming community, and that the access to CCMA services is very difficult or impossible to most farm workers or former farm workers. So somewhere the presentation is talking about the Know Your Rights campaign. My question would be, have this campaign been taken to any farming community? Because what we have realized there, Chair, is that most of the workers, they are not even allowed to be unionized. So they are very far from it's not only CCMA, but any other service that you can think about. So my question is that, Chair, if the Know Your Rights campaign has ever be done just on in the farming communities, and if yes, in which provinces, and what are the future plans? Because we really have to, we applaud CCMA for performing, but then where it matters most, seemingly they've never been there. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Mkondo. Honorable Mtabe.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning to yourself and honorable members, the Minister and Deputy Minister, as well as the staff from the department and all the entities that are present here today. Chair, I'm covered on most of the issues that have been raised by Honorable Mkondo in relation to the farming community having access to CCMA. And I want to echo the same words as well of congratulating the entity for being exemplary in terms of government performance. We really highly appreciate the work done. Just one clarity, I think it was on financials, the question of a variance on the annual budget. The variance that is there, is it related to the remainder of the budget for the the outstanding quarter, which would be quarter 4? That's the clarity that I'm seeking. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Mtabe. Can we invite the Director of CCMA and his team to respond to the questions?
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. We shall do so. Thank you for the questions. And also we wholeheartedly welcome on behalf of my team and the entire CCMA family, the compliments and appreciation from the Portfolio Committee, and we shall convey it to the team as a whole. Chairperson, let me start with the first question on the ballot supervision. Yes, we do get requests for ballot supervision. And we also did with the Sibanye dispute, the big Sibanye case. Initially, when it started, we were requested to do balloting there. And we monitored that and we did that excellently. And even in sometimes on difficult conditions, going to the stadiums where people are singing and carrying all kinds of things. But the team with pride and carrying our name and the name of the department and government as a whole, we made that intervention. They went and mixed with the members of AMCU and others, and then we conducted, and they respected us, and they respected our outcome, and there was no contestation. So we're very happy that we did that. Other than just ballot, supervision in as far as matters of mutual interest is concerned, we also get requests from federations to assist them to run their elections. A case in point here will be IFEDUSA. When it held its Congress, I received a request from the General Secretary saying that they don't want to go to other people to help them with the elections. Our reputation and our good work speak for itself. So can we assist? I said yes. And I said yes, Chairperson, because I really take pride in the good commissioners that we have. Especially, they are very mature and senior commissioners who've been with the commission for quite a while, and who have seen some of these processes before, and then they gladly take it up. Umura is here, and Upolan Nduna was there, Umpumalelong was there, and all senior commissioners coming from the different provinces. And they said, and Elias Longwana from the Northwest, they said, and I sat with the team, they conducted the elections, and we produced the results, and everybody was happy. We wish to continue to do that good work. We are going to build up on that success. So the answer to that is yes, we have. On the issue of Section 150, yes, we do. Like the Sibanye and other matters, we do that. That's a matter where we intervene even if a matter is not referred to the CCMA. And we have been very, very, very successful, Chairperson. You'll see in our dashboard, we're sitting at above 94, 95% success rate and using this intervention. We do note, like, for example, you've got IPADCO now that is threatening 1,000 jobs to be dismissed, and the spending of tires and all of those things. There's a bargaining council that is responsible for that, but we are aware of what is happening. we do get in touch with the relevant bargaining council. I have a forum I've established with the general secretaries of all bargaining councils where we discuss matters of mutual interest. And we do so when we do that. On our vision, absolutely. Chairperson, if at the end of all the quarters of the previous financial year, at the annual, you will also get to see the plans we have in terms of really cementing our world-class status. For example, we are attending an international conference now in September. Normally we do that, was stopped by COVID, where we meet with other world-class institutions like the CCMA, like ACAS of the UK, for example, Australia, Ireland, United States, New Zealand. They show us their best practices. And we also join in because we want to lift us into that level. But Chairperson, I must hasten also to mention something just quickly. The only thing that is creating a problem for us is the institution around us, particularly the Labour Court and the Labour Appeal Court, because the speed at which we grow, the other entities that feed from us are not growing at the same speed. And then you find that there is incompatibility in terms of processes. For example, our recording system for our hearings, we no longer use the tapes. We're using a JAV system, which is quite an advanced system, which we bought in the United States. It's so sophisticated that if you look at the systems that the court is using, they are not compatible with what we do. And therefore you find that there's a problem in terms of compatibility. So that becomes a problem. But we're not going to stop because of that. We'll continue to do so that even those that come after us, myself and the team that is leading at the moment, they must find a well-oiled machine and a world-class institution. On the issue of slide 14, referrals increasing, it's true. We are slowly going back into the pre-COVID scenario, and that's what we are monitoring. So that assessment is also correct. On the issue of professional services, particularly on the issue of agriculture, let me just deal with that because it also arose in the other question. Chairperson, the problem with agriculture is it may not be a true reflection of the disputes that arise there. It is correct that it is a matter of accessibility. And I must add, Chairperson, that there is a problem in accessing farms, whether for training, including the inspections in terms of the department. There are certain rules that have been created around the farms on when you access, how you access, and all those kinds of things. And also that when people exercise their rights, there's a backlash afterwards. I think in resolving the agricultural issue in terms of access and know your rights, we need a joint effort. But I think at the forefront of that, the portfolio committee, as you do your oversight visits, our power to access that and to unlock that will need you to help us there, because sometimes you get very, very difficult farmers there. Even on matters that are already referred, sometimes they don't show up at all into our processes, and we find the worker alone there. And also to process the notice of set down and the service and filing of our referrals, it becomes a complicated process. You will also note that in terms of our Labour Relations Act, Section 115, we have a duty to assist vulnerable workers to refer cases and to also to set them down. And we try our best to do so, but sometimes in the farms you don't have proper facilities and also access to have people do that. So we do acknowledge there that there is in fact a bigger problem. But I've got good news, Chairperson, because we always try to seek to find a solution. The good news is that, and I'm very grateful to the DG for this one of the department, that we have now agreed and we've signed an agreement with the department that the CCMA can use all labor centers of the department for purposes of our hearings. And we're dealing with the nitty-gritty of that on how we are going to do that, because our vision is that the centers we access, we must have access to Wi-Fi, for example. We have access to the hearing rooms, for example, and also that parties can go to the department and be able to refer CCMA cases at the department, because we're one in the same department, isn't it? So they can refer cases there. They can check the status of their case there. They can also do their hearings there, because the department has a much better reach than the CCMA. So it's much spread than us. the good news don't end there. I just got information and confirmation only yesterday, right? Chairperson, you would have noted that in the past we did report that we were intending to work with the South African Local Government Association. We have signed an agreement with them, and things just changed after the local government elections, and because there were changes in the municipalities. New leaderships made it difficult for us at the time to conclude and finalize everything we've agreed to. But I'm happy that they've come around. We have agreed now that we can access municipalities. And the report I have that we've already started doing so. Although in some cases we will be expected to pay. We're trying to negotiate that, because if we have to pay, it's going to defeat the purpose, because we want to stop using guest houses, because guest houses charges a lot of money for us to have hearings in places where we can't access, because we're trying to avoid the scenario where we have to pay to that, and also, you know, increasing our accessibility. So for me, that is a great success. And also the Labour Court has agreed that when they are in recess and they're not using the courts, if we want to have access to their courts, we can. And the judge president has confirmed that we can access courts, because we are all members of the state and we're serving our communities. We have a common clients. So we are quite excited about that, Chairperson, and I think that will help with the farming also. Our gardeners who are part of the domestic definition, construction, which is another area of vulnerability. And I think if the vision, which we will paint later, not today, on how accessibility is improved by the introduction of that and the upgrade of our systems from ICT point of view, and how that enhances and pushes that to the level of being really world class. And I think we are almost there. And Chairperson, if I may just deal with another question that has been asked, which is part of this. The Labour Conference of the CCMA is on the 22nd and 23rd of September. And it's for free, right? And Mr. Bagram, Honorable Bagram, is correct that if we were to have a minimum charge to these conferences, it's a very good income generating exercise. And at the moment, we are busy with designing a new operating model of the CCMA, and part of which is to find income generation sources, because we do have the expertise, we do have the information that can be sold for us to be self-sustainable. But there are other PFMA issues we must discuss. For example, if we raise money, and at the end of the year, it appears as if we have a surplus, but it will be money we've raised and we have to apply to keep the money. We need to find a comfortable way to not lose that money that we make, because we want to make it and be able to use as part of our budget so that we can enhance accessibility. And I'm just including that because I know there's a later question that was asked about that. Chairperson, achieving that, and I understand why members are raising the question, achieving that, it's actually enhancing Section 34 of the South African Constitution that says that the members of the public have a right to have access to independent and impartial tribunals. And when we achieve this accessibility on agriculture that has been raised, it only enhances that. So with the assistance on the income generation to enhance that, and with SALGA and everything else I've just mentioned, including online processes that we're using, because we're using a hybrid system. So we're doing very well there. At the end, when we paint the full dashboard picture, you will see how well that is. And when I speak, Chairperson, I'm inclusive of the Essential Services Committee. And on the issue of conciliation, yes, it is true that on average we are 23, and we are very proud of that. And we want to continue to do so. And we have started actually to use more of our full-timers also to save money on some of the conciliations that would normally be done by part-timers, but arbitrations are used for both. And now, effective from the midterm as we move forward, we are prioritizing dispute resolution and ICT. Dispute resolution in the sense that we want to now rechannel our resources into DR, which includes pushing to make sure that our part-timers get full access to cases of 20 days plus for those who want to do cases at the CCMA, so that they don't have less, because you know the old issue that we had. So we are harnessing our efforts to enhance them being able to give full days and for them to have full enjoyment of that. Chairperson, in as far as the question on finance, I can confirm still, CFO can add if I miss anything. I stated that we are in fact liquid in relation to slide 21. If you look at our assets, they're sitting at 369.3 and our liabilities are sitting at 61.8. So that shows you that in terms of our liquidity rate, it's quite high. So we are healthy. There's no issue there, Chairperson, in as far as the finance is concerned. I've dealt with the issue of income received, and we are going to enhance and increase that. The PFMA, Chairperson, and we have a donation and gifts policy, which is done in line with the PFMA. What we are going to do, and with your support and consent, of course, and with the department, I'm going to sit down with the DG on this one, that as part of the income generation, especially on our ICT, because we really need to enhance there. If there's anything left in our time that we need to achieve it in terms of dispute resolution, it is our ICT environment, Chairperson, because it's going to unlock us to become the ultimate, and we're going to try our best to get there. We want to ask for gifts or donations, but we want to be careful on that because of our impartiality and our independence. But the Act does allow it. Our policy does allow it. We just have to declare it properly, specifically on ICT. Chairperson, when you want to come to our case, we send you an SMS. That's a notice, and everyone has a cell phone. Then we use that. And Wi-Fi everywhere. And that works, but we need to create an integrated ICT system where our recording system, our case management, and our set down are integrated, but we don't have money to do it. So we want to go for donations and do conferences and things like that for us to raise money. It is correct, Chairperson. On slide 24 on the sheriffs, one of the proposals in terms of the labor law amendments that we are thinking of is it possible for CCMA to use its own resources to enforce our awards and also to collect money? But the bottom line is that people don't know about the sheriff service. Remember, the department has given us a special budget that, especially for vulnerable workers, that if they need to access CCMA and enforce the awards that we make, we do pay for the sheriffs for them to do so, but it's only for those that are below the threshold. So this has been a very wonderful contribution from the department in as far as the sheriff is concerned. The part that we're lacking in is when we collect on behalf of our users, that the employers who are forcing us to use that system must pay for the cost of execution. So we need to just perfect on that part, because that's the only part that I think is lacking. And then on the issue relating to fruitless and expenditure, yes, thank you very much. We've maintained that. You will see also in the annual, when we come back on our annual report, you will see that the AG confirms that we are clean in as far as irregular expenditure and fruitless expenditure. There's a question that I must not miss that dealt with the essential services. Chairperson, I think there was a question about essential services that I was referred to. If I may go back, Chairperson, that's the last comment, Chair. I think it's this one. The challenge we have on slide 13 is, which I just brushed, and the Chairperson is here, he can add if there's a need. Chairperson, we as a country, and especially in the labor market, we still have to find a way to encourage the rule of law. When I say the rule of law, I mean that when the CCMA issues an award, when there's an agreement that is reached or a designation that is made by the essential services that this service is essential, striking is not allowed to the extent that it's not allowed. And of course, subject to the minimum service agreements that we have, that it needs to be observed. And observance is on the parties. The shortcoming we have is that we do not know beyond that other than court what else needs to be done to make sure that the MSIs and the designations that are done, they are being complied with. There are areas, yes, it is correct, where it is not being observed. That we know. And we're really struggling on alternatives on how we can ensure that that is properly done, right? So that is the reality of it, Chairperson. And I think currently, as the LRA is under amendment, we're hoping that when Parliament discusses that, and we will be there with the Chairperson and the team to raise that issue, that there should be a way of ensuring there's observance to the agreements, there's also observance of the designations we make. Because what is the point of having an MSI, and what is the point of having a designation if it can't be complied with? The same with the award. If we make an award and it's not being executed, then what's the point of having the award? Chairperson, we can just envision a scenario where we issue 6,000 awards and none of them are executed. What will make of the CCMA? We will be a teethless institution. So we've got to be jealous about the execution of the outcomes that we make, because they are the one that contributes into the Chapter 1 of the Labor Relations Act, which is ensuring that there's labor peace and enhancing social justice and economic development. You can only achieve a legislative purpose if the outcomes of institutions created by the Act are being executed. The courts, the CCMA inclusive of the ESC, and the bargaining councils. And we need to, I think, enhance on compliance, because that's where the issue is, I think, Chairperson. And then lastly, I think on the agriculture and the 4%, I did that. And the issue of know your rights, I did that. I dealt with the issue of the variance as well indirectly. If I have not answered it correctly, or there's a gap, Chairperson, we can do so, and the team can assist. Unless there's anything that my team wishes to add. I think I've covered all the questions that has been raised. And I hope I was not too long, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Director. I think you were that long, but you were at least to the point with regard to questions. Any additions from the CCMA team? If none, just for noting, Director, I think the point with regard to accessibility of CCMA to farming communities and workers in particular relates to, in addition to what Honorable Mkondo has raised, the times that are available. Because in most instances, they are only allowed to go out over weekends. So maybe we can put it as a food for thought on your side, so that as you ensure that the arrangements that you have entered into between yourselves and SALGA, and as well as the Department of Justice, you would also find ways of taking that into consideration. I wouldn't insist that you respond now, but just take it as a food for thought. Yeah.
Okay. I see there's a hand from my CFO, Chairperson, that wanted to add something, and I see from Honorable Mkondo also has a hand. I don't know if Chair you saw.
Yes, because I was going to follow on Honorable Mkondo, because I thought it's an old hand. Is it through Honorable Mkondo? Yeah, it's a historical one. Then can we allow your colleague to make an additional remark?
Yeah, Kiribani.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you, Director. What I just wanted to add, there was a question pertaining to whether the column on the slide that talks to the budget analysis refers to annual. That's correct, it refers to annual. Essentially, it means that at the end of that particular quarter, we had spent 70% of our budget. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks, Ketibone, and thanks CCMA team as well. Can we now then proceed to presentation by NEDLAC? The platform is yours, Director Seftel.
Thanks, Chairperson. I'm not going to show my face because I'm being load shed at the moment, but I hope that you can hear me and see my presentation.
Yes, we can see and hear you. We can see the
Okay.
presentation.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to present on our third quarter performance, which was from October to December last year. I'll just briefly go through the highlights because they're also covered further in the report. I think we'll remember that in November we were hit by Omicron, which we thought was very scary, but turned out not to be so scary. But the social partners were able to respond rapidly, including calling for the intensification and mobilizing for the intensification of vaccinations. We had a number of dialogue sessions. We concluded some NEDLAC processes, and the NEDLAC Annual Summit happened on the 7th of December. I may mention that we are having our summit this year again in September, so that we're focusing on the last financial year. There's still issues, we can bring it back. And of course, the NEDLAC social partners said that's not the way we like to do things. It's not our protocol. As you know, we are part of monitoring the economic recovery, the implementation of the economic recovery and reconstruction program. And in this period, it was a bit difficult to get commitments and progress from government, but we did eventually. And then I'll talk more about this later, but we had a cybersecurity attack. But as a result, we have improved our security. Now, when it comes to our indicators, so I'm going to go through this slowly because I think previously it's been a problem, and I'm not a mathematician in any manner of means. So with the administration, so here we have indicators like training, capacity building, supply chain, and so on. Not all indicators are applicable for the quarter, so such as getting an unqualified audit. 4 are applicable. We achieved 2, and we didn't achieve another 2, which related to training and IT. So our overall achievement is not 50%. You see, I'm terrible. Overall achievement is 66%. Then in respect of our core operations, the targets that were applicable were 2, and we achieved 100%. And similarly with constituency capacity building, the targets that were applicable were 2, and we achieved 100%. So our overall achievement was 75%. So what are the 2 that we didn't achieve? The one was on training. This is internal training of staff. And we had a target of 30%, and we only got to 23. Because when we train, we have to get external service providers, and sometimes we don't spec well enough, and then we don't get responsive tenders. But we are really improving in this regard. And this year we have a lot of training in place or being put into place. And then on the IT complaints, this was really due to 2 things. The one thing was a cyber attack, and it took a long time, you know, especially because it was December and some colleagues were on leave to resolve this. And also there were changes with our service providers, so they were not always available. And then there were some serious hardware failures with our laptops. All these problems, I think we are really getting to grips with, because, you know, digitalization and access to connectivity is so important in the work that we do. Now, to get to the work, on our dialogue sessions, we had 4 on financial inclusion from National Treasury, green economy from DFFE, and also we heard about green hydrogen from the presidency. As I think you all know, the Department of Labour is working on a national labour migration policy and employment services amendment bill. It was out for public comments, but before it went out for public comments, the department brought it to NEDLAC. And then, as you know, also we've been working on the code around violence in the workplace, and we had a dialogue session on this, also looking at the ILO convention. When it comes to the work of our economics unit, there were really 3 areas on policies and bills: the companies amendment bill, the one-stop border post policy, and then this presentation on the tobacco products and electronic delivery services. When it comes to, there was also a lot of presentations and engagement on master plans, on Productivity SA, on customs fraud, and on report on the WT negotiations. And the task team has also established, the Chamber's also established a task team looking at employee share ownership schemes and plans. When we come to our Labour and Development unit, in the Labour Market Chamber, a lot of work on the revised Code of Good Practice on the prevention and elimination of harassment in the workplace. We have established, and in this quarter, a Labour Law Reforms Task Team, and Business and Labour put revised proposals. They also had proposals early in the year. Then the Department of Public Service Administration tabled 2 bills, but then said, no, we're not ready yet. There were 6 demarcation disputes considered. And then, in fact, on Friday, this Code of Good Practice on Section 77 on socioeconomic disputes was eventually published in the Government Gazette. But in this period, we thought we got agreement, and then it was referred back from MANCO for further deliberations. On the development and social side, we concluded the deliberations on the critical skills list. We considered quite a lot of bills: Central Application Bill, Administrative Adjudication of Road Traffic Offences, Electronic Deeds Registration Amendment Bill, and then we also get quarterly reports from the Department of Public Works on the EPWP. And in January, we published the research reports on comprehensive social security and retirement reforms, but in this period, we prepared that report. Then on emerging issues, you know, a lot of the focus in the 3rd quarter last year was on vaccinations, trying to mobilize and get an order of society commitment, amend the OHS direction to get more clarity on vaccines, consider incentives, because at that point in time, it was clear that there was lots of vaccine hesitancy, and that was a threat to further epidemics. I think we will recall that also in that period, there were liquor bans of one sort or another, and the liquor industry, you know, that would impact on jobs. And so there was an attempt to get certainty from government. Also in that time, workers were not getting their COVID TERS that they were entitled to, and there was a lot of work done about how to address the backlogs. And then you may also recall that we couldn't go to events, I think. And then there was, for example, I think on the 5th of November, there was a Bafana match, I think, against Ethiopia, and only 20,000 people were allowed to come. And this was having a big impact on the event sector. We also continue to respond to the July unrest, mostly an oversight role on the WABU benefit, on the extension of the social relief extension grant, on food parcels, and on support for informal and small business who may not have been adequately insured. In terms of economic recovery, our focus was really on 3 work streams: the SMME work stream on red tape challenges and on the relief measures for companies, on public transport and freight, public transport subsidy, rail private sector partnership framework, and then Business and Transnet have been comparing experiences, particularly around the operational circumstances at ports, which was in quite a crisis, particularly after the July unrest in KZN. And then on energies, in this period was the COP26 conference, and there were a number of proposals about what should be presented there, which came to NEDLAC. And we also appointed a facilitator, which has enabled us to function more smoothly. and there's ongoing work on progress and employment trends and so on. In terms of our corporate services, we started a recruitment process for 3 positions. We arranged a 2-year coaching program. We arranged for staff to get study support. And we did quite a lot of research into a revised remuneration structure, which was implemented in the 4th quarter. On facilities, really, it's just keeping our building together. And on information technology, in fact, even before we had our cyber attack, we enhanced cybersecurity, and then we had to enhance it further after the attack. On constituency capacity building, business continued their work with a service provider to provide them assistance on their electricity price path. Community had 6 feedback provincial workshops, and Labour began planning for their annual Labour School, which happened in January. Then on our financial report, so we've set out the quarter 3rd actual for the previous year, the current year in relationship to the budget, and the variance in relationship to revenue and expenditure, divided up between compensation of employees, goods and services, depreciation and amortization. And on the next slide, okay, let me just go to this slide. On this slide, we have divided it per programs. So you can see our biggest program is administration, because that's where our salaries are. And the variance is a result of, mostly as a result of vacancies in salary positions. I'll come back to that. On core operations, that is really mostly, whether it's travel or accommodation or service providers. And there is also a variance there, but which we are addressing. And then on capacity building, this is money that we give to organized business, labor, and community. And they are slow spenders there, and they continue to be slow spenders over the course of the year. But we still believe this is an important program, which needs to be supported to be able to improve what we do at NEDLAC. So as I indicated now, there was a savings on the compensation of employees. We did increase our goods and services budget, but there's still an underspend. But also importantly, there were no transactions on irregular expenditure or fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Chairperson, I think I'm going to end there.
Thanks, Director, for the sound presentations you've made. Honorable members, that's the presentation. Can we allow for your engagement?
It's Michael Bagram, Acting Chair.
Yes. Yes, thanks, Honorable Bagram, Honorable Kado, Honorable Mkondo. Let's take those 3 for now. Honorable Bagram.
Thank you, Acting Chair, and thank you, Commissioner, for the report. I appreciate it. I just want to have a look at a couple of things. With regard to the key areas of focus of NEDLAC, you've referred to the prevention and elimination of harassment in the workplace. Every year this comes up, and every year we get more codes, we get more rules, regulations, but somehow it gets worse and worse every year. I'm not sure if any of this is helping what's actually happening at the workplace. Maybe it's worth your while looking at what happens to the code thereafter. Is it actually then enforced, and what's happening on the ground? Because we're getting reports that it's worse. The establishment of a labor law reforms task team. I remember last time we asked if we can have a look at some of these proposals. I think you had undertaken to send it to Mr. Zakaza. I'd like to put some flesh on that and see where we're going. What are the suggestions? What is NEDLAC actually debating in terms of revised proposals from business and labor? Let's see it, because it's no good saying you're discussing it. We don't know what you're discussing. And then there's the Code of Good Practice on Section 77 disputes. I noted that last Friday it was gazetted. There's a gazette that's out. My strong feeling, and I don't know if anyone ever debated this, is somehow we're putting out a red carpet for mass strikes. I know that the Constitution protects strikes. I know that it's part of our daily living, but I think we're going to see more and more of these mass strikes, and I'm not sure if they've got any veracity to them at all. And it's damaging, and maybe this should have a relook at it again. If I can go on to the next slide, the TERS backlog, I know that's history, but I'm still experiencing that we have still got backlog in these payments. There's still a problem, and I don't know if that's ever come back around your table. Then on to that next slide, the key areas of focus, economic recovery. Again, your presentation from business and labor on red tape. What's actually happening? Because the red tape is getting worse and worse. You would have seen that the Minister of Employment and Labor is still putting out more and more harsh regulations, which somehow add to the red tape as opposed to somehow working it out. The same with public transport. Rail is still a complete and utter mess. You can talk about it till the cows come home, but we don't see much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Honorable Begram. Honorable Kato.
Thanks, Acting Chair. I just had a few follow-up questions. Firstly, on the preparation of research reports on the comprehensive social security and retirement reforms, I just wanted to clarify whether this touches on the possible introduction of a basic income grant, and if so, what precisely is NEDLAC's role in those discussions? Did these research reports have anything to say about the potential cost to taxpayers of the basic income grant pitched at various poverty line levels? Then secondly, just elaborating from what my colleague said about the establishment of the Labour Law Reforms Task Team, is it possible to get an idea of exactly who sits on that task team and what the nature of its scope and mandate and timeframes are? I'm particularly interested to know if the task team will be relooking at the automatic extension of collective bargaining agreements. As we know, it's an idea being floated from many quarters, even within the ruling party at one stage, that the automatic extension of those bargaining agreements to small firms and new firms should be scrapped in the interests of job creation, essentially. And then finally, my usual question around the governance task teams. Where are we precisely with that? What has come of that whole process, particularly with the revisitation of the principal NEDLAC Act? And if we could just be updated on that, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Kado. Honorable Mkondo, followed by Honorable Ndabe.
Thanks, Chair, for the opportunity, and let me join my colleagues and welcome the presentation. I will have a few comments and questions, Chair. One is the underperformance in as far as administration is concerned. My worry is the cyber attacks in December. I just want to know if NEDLAC feels that it does have a risk a management strategy in as far as IT is concerned, because nowadays we hear of very serious crimes that are committed on when IT is attacked. Even very classic information can be stolen through that. So I'm just checking if they have any risk management or even mitigation strategies in as far as that is concerned. And do they think that it is enough for their IT to be as safe as required. One slide, I can't remember it, Chair, talked about the one-stop border policy bill. I just want to know how far is that bill, and because Chair, some of us, we are staying close to borders. I'm staying, I think, about 20 kilometers from the Libombo border post, and I was not aware that NEDLAC can be part of such things, because I've been pestering the Minister of Home Affairs about this matter, the long queues of heavy truck vehicles at the border post that have now of late become a target of thugs that attack them, rob them, stab them, and now of late even kidnapping them. So I just want to know as to how far is this one-stop border policy bill, because it will assist a lot. It will assist a lot, Chair. I'm not going into details on that. And the constituency capacity building. Chair, maybe I need to be capacitated myself. Who is NEDLAC as a constituency besides the partners? Who is NEDLAC's a constituency? Maybe we are part of the constituency and we did not get the capacity building, but I just need to be clarified because I want to know the beneficiaries of these capacity building sessions. The retirement reforms is the suggestion by some labor unions that members of some, specifically the civil servants, members of some retirement annuities must be able to loan some funds from their retirement funds. Is it part of that? Is it under debate, or it has been debated and closed? I just want to know that, Chair. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Honorable Kondo. Honorable Ndala.
Thank you, Chairperson, and let's welcome the report. Just one quick question, Chair, on the National Labour Migration Policy and Employment Services Amendment Bill. What is the status, or what is the position of the social partners into the amendments as it has been presented? Thank you, Chair.
Can we allow you, Director, to respond? There are no further questions. Honorable Kado, is your hand the historic one, or you want to follow up? I think it's a historic one. You can proceed, Director.
Thanks, Chairperson. I'll start with Honorable Bagram. So I think Honorable Bagram raises an interesting question, and I will take it back to the Labour Market Chamber. Generally the chamber deliberates on the code and agrees on the wording, and then the code is published. In some areas of NEDLAC, we do then request follow-up, and this might be an area, as he says, to check whether the code is making a difference in terms of harassment in the workplace. There isn't a plan at the moment, but it is something that we can take back. On the task team proposals, I apologize if we were meant to send them and we haven't. we can do that. I must just check, but I don't think there should be a problem. At the moment, the Labour Law Task Team is in progress. So what I may be sending are the initial proposals, of which there is varying degrees of progress and compromise and negotiation happening at the moment. Then maybe just let me answer Honourable Carter's questions on labour law reform at the same time. The Labour Law Reform Task Team is a 6-a-side task team consisting of 6 reps from organised business, from organised labour and from government. The timeframes that were set in the terms of reference was envisaged to be 8 months. I must say that the process is slow, so I'm not sure that they will meet an 8-month target, mostly due to availability. The issues are complicated and some issues have to be referred back a number of times, but there is consistent work happening there. The issue of automatic extension of collective bargaining agreements, I don't think is explicitly on the table, but there are a number of provisions about how to improve collective bargaining and how to address issues of the impact of collective bargaining, of one-size-fits-all kind of collective bargaining, let me put it like that. But I see, Temenkosi Kalipi from the department is also here, and he may want to comment further on that. And similarly, on the code of good practice, look, I don't know about it being a carpet for mass strikes. And I think, Honourable Bagram, you're saying it should be revisited again. We've just spent, I think, a year to 18 months looking at this code. But the focus in NEDLAC is obviously about how you facilitate the best processes. And that's been our focus. The number of these strikes and their veracity is something really outside the control of NEDLAC. But I do hope that with this code, when there is an issue, there is a greater chance of resolving the dispute. And very recently, myself and the Standing Committee went to Bethlehem in the Free State, where there was a potential Section 77 socioeconomic dispute around water and electricity in Kwakwa, Pututaju Chaba, and so on. And I think we initiated a process that may avert the need for socioeconomic protest. Yes, on the COVID tours backlog, there is still a backlog. The social partners are still seized with engaging with the UI to address the backlog. It's not an easy process. There are serious challenges at the Unemployment Insurance Fund. On red tape and public transport, look, these again are issues where NEDLAC social partners engage. From where the NEDLAC social partners are, from the reports that come, it does look like, for example, the Small Business Department has just come with a master plan on small business. There have been some initiatives, and I think similarly with PRASA and public transport, but there are long ways still to go in some of these issues. I hope I've done justice to your questions. On Honourable Carter, so there were four research reports, which are available on our website. There was one report on the basic income grant, and there were recommendations when the report, when the research reports were concluded, when there were comments on the green paper, where NEDLAC did indicate issues of support to something like a basic income grant, but reservations by some of the social partners on the financial feasibility. And I would say that the research reports informed the deliberations of the social partners. At the moment, NEDLAC is not discussing this matter, but obviously there is a task team that is available to continue to debate this matter when government comes with further proposals. Now, when we can, you wanted an update on the governance task team. The governance task team has concluded extensive deliberations on revising a constitution for NEDLAC, and at their next meeting, they are going to be considering a new revised constitution. And then there has also been extensive comments, and there is a revised bill on the table, but the governance task team hasn't concluded their deliberations on that. And the Secretariat of NEDLAC have developed a new protocol, which is still for discussion in the governance task team. We are hoping that by January, the ManCo and ExCo will be able to approve these documents for either implementation or, in the sake of the bill, to, just come into the parliamentary process. Honorable Mkonto, we do, in terms of cyber attacks, have a risk register and risk mitigation. We've got a lot of number of business continuity policies and things like that. But you're right, it's an ongoing risk, and it's something we always have to be very alert to. On the one-stop border, it's a policy, not a bill. I'm not sure, but if the department is coming, that's the Department of Home Affairs is coming with a bill, so I think you would need to check, because that's a Department of Home Affairs competency. But I did see something in the media where there are nevertheless improvements arising out of the policy being implemented, particularly in Messina and the north. On constituency capacity building, I think you answered an interesting question, and I'm sure we could even have discussion with the chairperson of the portfolio committee about whether parliamentarians can benefit from this capacity building. But the way we define it is, so it would be organized labor and business and community, and it usually is their representatives that come to NEDLAC. But for example, when COSATU organize, when organized labor have a labor school, they don't only bring the people that come to NEDLAC, they bring other senior leadership from COSATU and NACTU and FEDUSA, so that there's report backs from what happens in NEDLAC to broader union leadership. On the retirement reforms, at the moment, the matter is not in NEDLAC because I think National Treasury has tabled a bill. So it is the shift. It's now, the issue is now in Parliament. But I think there is still some engagement on the side because this is quite controversial, particularly for the pension fund administrators. So I wouldn't say that the debate is closed. But I do think that there is a clear intention from National Treasury to do something. It may not be as much as Labour want, and it may be too much from business. So I think there is still a need for an agreement reached. But now the Parliament also needs to be inputting into this. Honourable Mdabe, on the Employment Services Bill and the policy, and again, colleagues from the department or the DG may want to talk more about this. The department felt that they should bring to NEDLAC just to present, it was a dialogue, it wasn't the start of engagements, what they were planning on these two very important documents, which is what they did in December last year. They then early this year went out for public comments. And as I understand, they are now incorporating the public comments in the policy and bill, and then it will come back to NEDLAC for formal engagement. Chairperson, I hope I've done justice to all the questions.
Thanks, Honorable Director. No, I was saying Honorable. Thanks, yes. Director.
Actually, I'm an executive director.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay. I think the hand is a historic one from Honorable Kato. I think it's that honorable that distracts me. Honorable members, any follow-up questions before I let director to leave? There is none. Can we then proceed to presentation by Productivity South Africa? Mr. Muthinya.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think I'm struggling this side to have the presentation on the screen. Is it showing, Chair?
Not yet, but I've tried to remove my face. It looks like my face is obstructing you. But my name is just on top of your presentation. I don't know how it happened. Yeah, okay. Can you again reload you or share your screen? Yes. No, my name still blocks you. I don't know from your side.
For convenience, can I be assisted from that side?
Can our technical team help? Can you reload then? Can you share your screen again, Honorable Mr. Muthinya? I'm sorry. Can I log out for a second and then log back, so that in the process then you share your screen, and then I log back. I'll go out and then you come in. The same. I don't know with other members. It's still the same. My name is still blocking your presentation.
On my side, it was showing that participants can see the screen. I don't know what is the still not sharing.
Your sharing is beneath my name. Can IT people, or maybe just let's leave you on the screen and let me again go out and then relog again. No, don't go out. Share your screen. It's me who's going to go out. Unless other people are not affected by this. It's only me. I'm not sure what has gone on. Do other people have a clear screen and they see the presentation?
Not really.
Not really.
Yes, it just shows your names.
By
I
name.
see your shared screen, Chair.
I'm sorry?
I see your shared screen. Perhaps if you press
Yeah,
the shared
that's a problem because I didn't share any screen. Something might have gone wrong was the sharing of screen because everybody, I see everybody here. I see Honorable Volmarans, I see myself, and I see the actual screen. I also see Honorable Makubel. Yeah. Can you stop sharing? Can you stop sharing? Yeah. And then can you make sure that you share the screen only of Mr. Motiba, and don't share us, because it's not only me who's affected, it is affecting all of us. It's the person who's sharing the screen who's affecting us, not me.
Acting Chair, may I suggest that we go ahead with the presentation? We all got the productivity presentation from Mr. Zakaza, and I'm sure everyone's read it already. Maybe
Okay.
instead of spending a lot of time, I think we should just go ahead.
Yes. We agree, members, honorable members, that we proceed.
Sorry, Chair, Honorable Chair, can I maybe try and share from the presentation?
From your side. Okay.
Let me try that, Chair.
Yes. Okay.
Is it showing,
Yeah.
Chair?
Yes, it's showing. It's clear.
Then Mr. Mtiba will have to tell me which slide to go to because I don't know his presentation.
Yes.
Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
If you could put it on slideshow. Honorable Chairperson, members of the committee, the Minister and Deputy Minister, as well as colleagues from the department and entities, good morning. Apology for this mishap. Just as a way of introduction, I would like to draw the committee's attention on slide 5. The reason why I'm wanting to focus on this slide, it's for purposes of indicating to the committee that for a number of years, we have been struggling to have some level of coordination on interventions with the DTIC, the Department of Small Business Development, including SIDA and Provincial Economic Development Departments as it relates to other government policy mandates and programs. And I think it's important to report to the committee that we've made great strides in this regard. Our relationship with the DTIC, with the Department of Small Business Development, with SIDA, and almost 4 provincial government departments, including the Western Cape, KZN, Eastern Cape, and Limpopo, have really seen great strides, particularly on programs that has to do with support for small and medium-sized enterprises. And with regard to the DTIC, we are central and very critical to supporting the sector master plans, and that is really helping us greatly. And also, we have been in discussions with the International Labour Organization, particularly as it relates to the Centenary Declaration for the Future of Work, as well as the Abidjan Declaration, both of 2019. And this relationship, which culminated in an MOU in 2020 has actually matured to the extent that in May 2022, we were appointed to implement the productivity ecosystems for decent work, which we are implementing in collaboration with the ILO in South Africa. I think I thought I should just share this with the committee. On slide number 8, there is this issue about an integrated enterprise development and support ecosystem, which also link to the discussions and agreement with the ILO. There is an issue about promoting technology and ways of doing business that are environmentally friendly, as well as integrating government support for formal and informal SMMEs, startups, and cooperatives, with government as a funder of first resort and funding linked to productivity outcomes. I'm emphasizing this, Chair, because we have also begun in Q3, we also began engagements with the development funding agencies. We had already had formal sessions with the National Empowerment Fund, with the Land Bank, as well as with the IDC. And here the objective is to ensure that when these development funding agencies fund small enterprises in particular, they should include non-financial support. There is a traction in terms of the NEF, as well as the Land Bank. We just signed an MOU with the Land Bank, and we're hopeful that particularly when it comes to agriculture and agro-processing, we will begin to see much traction in terms of supporting those enterprises, so that we're able to do as much as we could to improve the productivity and competitiveness of small enterprises. Chair, I would like to then move to slide 17. Slide 13, if we could start with 13. On this slide, we're just giving you an indication of our performance over the period from April to December, but with a focus on Q3. You'll realize that, Chair, our performance over the 8 indicators that we had planned for Q3 was not satisfactory, in that we only achieved 6 of the 8, and we ended up at 75%. You will notice that our greatest challenge lies with the areas where we have to support enterprises facing economic distress and initiatives aimed at preventing job losses. That's our strategic objective 3. This has been a difficult situation for us starting from Q2. A number of measures have been put in place, and I'll explain that as we go further. But I need to emphasize that we're worried about this area of work, because it is more needed, more so that a number of companies were affected by the COVID crisis. If you go to slide 17, here we're just giving you an indication of why we performed poorly in terms of performance indicator number 8, as well as performance indicator number 9, particularly as it relates to the number of jobs that we saved through it as turnaround strategy interventions. You will notice that we missed the target by 427, meaning that we could only achieve 7,473 out of 7,900. And there are key two challenges, Chair, here. One is the companies that has to access this service should comply with SARS as well as UI requirements. And we unfortunately had to turn some of the companies back because they were either not compliant with SARS or have not been compliant with the UIF, which is a sad story, particularly if you are talking about companies facing economic distress. We have been in discussion with the department in this regard. We're hopeful that going into the future, we will have a solution. One other challenge, as we reintroduced the program in 2020, we have at the same time been rebuilding capacity because the program was suspended in the previous years. So as we implement, we're also rebuilding capacity. And because of the uncertainty regarding future funding, we could not attract people on a permanent basis. So we ended up having a fixed term contracts, people on fixed term contracts, which is also a deficiency. And we believe that with the current discussions around single source funding for Productivity SA, we'll be able to firm up on this area so that we're able to go full steam in implementing the program. So you can effectively see that in terms of performance indicator number 9, we were not able to attract as many companies as we could, to the extent that that has an impact on indicator number 8. If we could go to slide number 21. Here, Chair, I just want to share with the committee the highlights, particularly flowing from, if you could go to 20, slide 20. Thank you. As I indicated, Chair, when I make the introduction, that we've seen an improvement in the relationship and coordination of program interventions between the various government economic cluster departments, both at the national as well as a provincial level. That it's giving a reflection in this slide. If you look at the 3 indicators that we have on this slide, the one that talks to supporting enterprises to improve their competitiveness and sustainability, you can see that by Q3, I can safely that we have achieved over 95% of our annual target. I think we can really, with the limited resources that we have, one can proudly say that we're doing very well as it relates to supporting enterprises to improve their competitiveness and sustainability. You can see the results in terms of support to SMMEs. The target was 939 and the actual performance was over 1,000. And in terms of the entrepreneurs, workers and managers capacitated. You can see that the target was 1,500 and we have achieved well over 2,000. And in terms of the productivity champions, and as I indicated previously to the committee, that here, that's an area where we're looking at the district development model, and we have looked at the number of districts as well as the metros, so that at least we can enhance capacity at that level to ensure that we promote the productivity movement, and also that there would be people who would support these enterprises once we have intervened and left. You can also see that in terms of the target there of 243, we have achieved 372. The next slides, that is 21, 22, and 23, are very specific to the areas where I said it is the support that we give to companies facing economic distress in order to save jobs. I must indicate we're doing poorly in this area, to the extent that if you look at slide number 21, we had a target of 7,900 and we could only achieve over 7,400. And as the reasons I have given in slide 22, there's also a challenge there. If you look at the number of companies facing economic distress supported, that we had a target of 158 and we could only achieve 82. But in the next slide 23, you can see that despite that poor performance in terms of the two indicators, we had targeted to support and train future forum members. These are committees comprising of management as well as workers, so that when we intervene, we're able to work together with them to analyze the problems that these companies are facing, to the extent that they should consider either retrenching workers or closing shop. In this instance, we had a target of 474, and we can proudly indicate that we're able to train and capacitate 693 workplace forum or future forum members. With this, Chair, one could indicate that there is a lot of work that we still have to do as it relates to the business turnaround and recovery program areas. At this point, I would then request the acting Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Dludla, to take the committee through the financial performance chair, starting from the next slides. With your permission, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mchiba. All protocol observed. I'll start from slide 25. Yeah, this just shows that our funders, as the third quarter, we're funding us adequately. We're still behind on the PTNR, but we have funding. It's purely because it's coming from a suspension, but I mean we are tracking very, very well. The reason why we're in a deficit of 1 million in the third quarter is purely because we received the court order in the third quarter to reinstate pensioners' medical aid, which we had to pay about 1.1 million. We currently have appointed attorneys to look into this matter, and probably we will report back as we proceed with this matter. Looking at slide 27 on the audit findings, I think just to report to the committee that we, out of about 28 audit findings that we had about 4 still, needing closure by the third quarter. If you look at most of them, they are to do with policies, which has to just go for approval, but they were all in progress for approval through our different committees within the entity. And the last slide purely just, the status in terms of irregular and fruitless and the other items, but that's all for me, Ms. Mtiba. Back to you.
Thank you, Chairperson and committee members. With that, we will await questions and comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mutini and your team for the presentation. Can we allow for honorary members to raise Honorable Begram? Any other hand? Honorable Mkondo? You can proceed, Honorable Begram.
Thank you, Acting Chair. I really appreciate it, and thank you for the report and commentary. Just before I even ask the questions, it is an entity, I must admit that it's an entity that is needed and desperately needed in South Africa. So I mustn't be misinterpreted with some of my questions. Obviously, we start off with the legislative mandate right in the beginning at slide 3, and it's to promote employment growth and productivity. Well, in essence, as one can see, that we are probably the worst in the world with regard to employment growth and the second worst in the world with regard to productivity, which doesn't speak very well to the mandate at all. I can't blame the entity at all, but I can blame the department because for some reason or other we are showing the worst in the world. If I look at slide 4, one of the mandates is the creation of decent employment. Maybe they can just tell me what their definition is of decent employment. I know that the ILO defines decent employment as employment in alignment with the law, but I think there might be somehow a different interpretation of what decent means over here. If we go to slide 5, the priority halfway down, contribution to the ERRP, priority number 2, employment stimulus to create jobs and support livelihoods. Again, we in essence can say this has gone backwards every single quarter for the last 10 years, maybe a little bit more, but we've gone backwards every single quarter. If I can go into slide 17, the number of jobs saved in companies facing economic distress every year, I see we've about 7,500 jobs. That is really a drop in the ocean. It's nice for that particular person. We don't know whether it's part-time jobs. We don't know if it's short-term employment. It could be someone getting a job for a week, and then we add, but even 7,500 is absolutely nothing in the face of 11 million unemployed South Africans who could work, which is quite sad. If you go down that page to number 9, where we've actually, when you look at the companies facing economic stress, the turnaround, again, it's a drop in the ocean, 82 companies. It certainly is nothing. I'm not even sure if it's worth going for that, unless it's just some sort of exercise. And then if you look at slide 21, the number of jobs saved in companies, again, what have we got? We've got 8,000 jobs. I mean, it really is nothing. I wonder what that costs us per job. If you actually outline what it costs per job to save, I think it's almost ridiculous. I'm not sure if we're doing the right thing over here. And then we've got on slide 22, the number of companies facing economic distress. Well, the reality is, of course, that if you look at the liquidations, that's real distress. it's in something in excess of 5,000, and here we've got a target of 158 and we achieved 82. I'm not sure where that's taking us and what we've actually spent on that again. Again, I'm not blaming the entity. I'm just saying there's a real problem. One thing I must give accolades to, and look at slide 28, please. Everyone have a look at slide 28, which is, we need to applaud it. Irregular expenditure, naught. Fruitless and wasteful expenditure, naught. So well done. Big applaud for them. Thank you, the acting chair. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Honorable Pegram. Honorable Mkondo.
Thanks, Chair. I welcome the presentation by Productivity SA. Chair, I will have comments and questions. We were once promised, Chair, in this committee that there will be a plan for Productivity SA to go to other countries that are performing better. Maybe the top 5, one of the top 5 countries where Productivity SA has to go and learn as to exactly how do they do their things. What is it that they do better than we do in South Africa? Because our world rankings are very disappointing. Chair, I will then go to slide, if I'm not mistaken, is slide 17, where he's talking about the indicators that 8 and 9 of the companies facing distress because they couldn't be assisted because they have challenges of SARS and UI. They don't comply. Chair, I can just imagine that such companies are the SMMEs and they are employing a lot of people, and we'll all agree that they are a backbone of local economic development, specifically in the townships and in the villages. Meaning that if you have more than 400 companies that you couldn't assist, the possibility is that the number of employees that are affected are above 4,000. So, Chair, my question will be, when these companies were identified as being not eligible to be helped, are they told, no, thank you, we can't help you because you don't have SARS documents, you don't comply to UI, or are they assisted to comply and then being given an opportunity to come back and be assisted? That will be my question, Chair. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Honorable Mkondo. There is no follow-up. Mr. Mutinya, you can proceed with your responses.
Thank you, Chair. I think Honorable Bahrain has raised a number of very important issues, particularly as it relates to issues of employment growth and productivity. More so that if you look at the work that we do, we focus on 2 spheres of employment growth. At one level is to support companies to create jobs. And on the other hand, it support companies going through distress in order to preserve jobs. It is a reality that we're doing poorly as a country in that area. And that is why we have always impressed it upon all of us as a country, particularly as we engage the economic cluster departments, both at the national as well as provincial and local government level. that the issue of productivity and accountability thereof should actually be a national priority. Our analysis is we're far from that. And that it's also linked to the question, I mean, the comment raised by Honorable Mkonto, where she's mentioning the issue of competitiveness, that our competitiveness ranking is low, and whether we have done some benchmarking in terms of where do we sit as a country, what is it that the top 10 countries are doing, which we should embrace as South Africa. To the extent that, as I was saying, we have had extensive discussions with the ILO. I indicated that South Africa signed through the Department of Employment and Labor a memorandum of understanding with Switzerland, particularly around the issue of productivity ecosystems for decent work. Now, this is an attempt by us to ensure that we elevate issues of productivity and competitiveness at 3 levels: at a macro level, at industry or sector level, as well as at enterprise level. For the larger part of the existence of Productivity South Africa, our focus was at the enterprise level. And if you look at the numbers of enterprises that we support, surely we can agree that supporting 3,000 enterprises per annum out of over, just in terms of small enterprises, over 2 million small enterprises. It's true, as you mentioned, Honorable Bayram, that it's just a drop in the ocean. So this is why we are continuously making a call for the country to embrace productivity and competitiveness. And in the various discussions that we are having with the department and other departments in the attempt to coordinate employment growth, these are the issues that we put high on the agenda. And we're hopeful that through this productivity ecosystems for decent work, we can be able to, through the support of the ILO, we can be able to make some strides in this regard. It is true that, again, if you look at our performance in terms of the jobs saved, and I said it, I'm not proud to be standing in front of this committee and talking about only saving 7,000 jobs when we have actually lost over 1 million jobs between 2021 and 2022. However, the fact that you're able to identify the companies that are going through economic distress, and a number of them, as much as the number is low, are showing up to say we need support. And in that regard, when you provide them support, the reality is when they had contemplated retrenching workers, they don't. And I think that is a stride. And if the numbers could increase, we would see more progress made in this regard. But I concede that it's very little being done, but the value of the program, it's so critical. And you can see it in the companies that were supported, as well as the workers whose jobs were saved. Regarding the issue raised by Honorable Mkonto of the support and assistance that we provide for companies facing economic distress, particularly when they do not meet the SARS and UI requirements, we don't just send them away. In terms of SARS, we advise them to enter into an agreement with SARS so that they can make a commitment to clear their SARS obligations. But the process takes very long, particularly the fact that these are small enterprises. They are going through distress financially. So for them to be able to make a commitment to SARS quite often becomes a difficulty, and they end up falling off and not being able to access the program. With regard to the unemployment insurance fund, through the discussions with the department, particularly the companies that are applying for temporary employee relief scheme, there is an agreement with the unemployment insurance fund that at least for those companies, as they access the TERS, then they can be put on the turnaround solutions program. And that has helped greatly, but you still have a number that if they are not applying for TERS, but then just wanting to access the program, we're not able to assist them because they do not meet those requirements. So we always engage and refer them to the unemployment insurance fund to assist them, but we have not made traction in that area. We appreciate the comments and regarding the governance and financial performance of the entity, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Motiwa, for the responses and the presentation by your team. And also thanks to the honorable members for their questions. There seem to be no follow-up question. In this period, I would invite Honorable Minister to make remarks before we conclude the meeting. Honorable Minister, can you share thoughts with us on the presentations and the issues you would want to share with us? Honorable Minister. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. I want to just
you've muted yourself.
I've noted the issues raised by the honorable members, Chairperson, and clearly there are areas where we need to improve. And but there are areas which were outstanding, or issues which were outstanding to me. First, when we're dealing with the CCMA,
the issue of the accessibility of the CCMA to the farm workers. When you're looking at that graph, it's not that there are no problems in the farms. In fact, it's one of the most problematic employment sector, where workers are still treated in some like slaves. And we will have to work on the strategy. There are workers who are still treated like slaves by the farm workers. And as we are going to be dealing with the National Labour Migration Policy, I'm giving a notice. If we want to stop all these irregularities and the violations, the law must bite. The penalties must not just be like fish and chips. They must be very heavy, and we set the example when people are violating the law. And we are going to argue for that. It's a very serious matter. We seated with the problem of illegal people who have been employed because of the employers who still want cheap labor and do not want to respect the labor laws. The law must bite. Currently, they know that even if it goes to court, it would just be a small fine of 50,000, sometimes 100, which is sweet to them, given what they are making. So we've noted that particular area. The second one relates to Untitled, the issue of the labor law review. There's nothing which says we want the labor law, including the ruling party, to be reviewed and you reduce the rights of the workers. There's nothing like that. But what we have acknowledged is, how do we come up with streamlined procedures to help the small businesses without fundamentally changing the labor law? We're not going to go into that route and reduce the rights of the workers. We're not party to that debate, and we will oppose it. Because we're talking about an apartheid here, we're talking about inequality, we're talking about people who were denied the education and all the basic rights behind the apartheid system. And now all of a sudden people want us to do away with the labor laws which were protecting our people. In fact, we would argue that we need to strengthen them more. However, we need to acknowledge that we will need to come up with the procedures which will make it easy for those, including the informal sector, because there's employment in the informal sector. A lot of employment in the informal sector. I can tell you that the informal sector, research is showing now, informal sector is even employing more than some of the formal businesses. So we will look into that particular area, and let's allow that process of the labor law reform to take its course, and we will come back to Parliament. The last issue which I think it's important I must talk about relates to the extensions of agreements, which is coming from the members, that extension of agreement to members of the bargaining councils. Our information is that there are very few agreements, if any, that are published unconditionally. Almost all agreements are published for public comment before publication and before they are considered. And all those bargaining council agreements, there are escape clauses where people can be able to apply to the ministry if there are problems, they cannot be able to meet those. To give an impression that the bargaining council agreements are a problem, people want to take us to before 1994, where workers' rights were not respected. And they must go and tell the workers, as political parties, this is what they are doing. We will not agree to that. Because on everything which we do, we make sure that all parties do comment. And lastly, I think there's a lot for the productivity essay, because a number of companies are going down. They are going to need help. Therefore, the issue of the resources remains very critical. The very policies which we are talking about here today, commending the CCMA, commending NETLEC, commending Productivity South Africa, are all policies of the African National Congress in trying to protect the workers. So we will continue with that particular agenda. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Minister. Thanks again for the guidance and the commitments that you have given to us with regard to the critical issues that had arisen from the reports that have been presented here. I think from all the presentations that have been made, the Portfolio Committee has noted quite the positive aspects on all three of them. In as much as those, there are areas that members have also expressed concern with regard to them. But I hope that in our next session of engagement, we would be able to have, in fact, overcome all the areas and ensure that all the areas where we have underperformed, given the reasons that have been forwarded, which the committee has noted, we would have in fact improved on them. Having noted that, and no hand, I don't want to extend the meeting, honorable members, honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, DG and his delegation, and also the guests. With the meeting now is adjourned. Thank you for your attendance and for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.